Solo, a Star Wars story, director Ron Howard calls fans who love Solo a year after its anniversary a cult following. So I guess we're a cult podcast because we're the ones who started that hashtag. Make Solo 2 happen. We're keeping that going right here, guys. It's the Resistance Broadcast, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is John Hoey. If you are new to the Resistance Broadcast, welcome. The Resistance base is open to all, so tell all your fellow fans of Star Wars about our podcast and join the Resistance. It's a good time. So you may notice if you're watching on YouTube that there are only two of us today, so let me get this out of the way right now. That Mr. James Baney had a bit of a weather issue back home. He had actually a tornado run through his town, and two tornadoes run through his town. He's fine. His family's fine, but the internet's down, and he just wasn't able to make it. He did everything he could, but he wasn't able to make it. So he says hi to everybody, and he'll be back next week. For sure, but we're going to try to soldier on without him. And with me doing that is Lacey Gillerin. Lacey, how you doing? What's going on?
Hello. This is going to be interesting.
I think there was 1 week James wasn't with us previously. We got through it and we survived, so we're going to give it a shot.
I'm just
again
kidding.
Here.
Just kidding.
Lacey, what do you say we just... well, first of all, what do you think about being called a cult fandom of something? Have you ever been a cult fan of something?
I don't think so. I think that's very... Like, what do people consider a cult following? Like, Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where there's a loud group of fans who may not be a mainstream group of fans at this point, but they're known for that, and it's very like a passionate group, you know?
We'll get into this in a little bit about the whole Ron Howard thing. Ron Howard thing.
Ran
I don't know how to say
Howard.
it that way. But the cult thing bothers me in a way because I think it's a lot more fans like it than he thinks. And the fact that he thinks it's a cult following a little bit bothers me because I'm like, no, Ron, it's more people than that. It's just that he's been beat down by all the negativity. But
I also think he's a very humble man. But like you said, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yep.
So right now, why don't we do what we always do, and that's hop into these poll results. All right, guys. Now, we asked you, we're not sure how much Luke Skywalker will be in The Rise of Skywalker or how he will be used. So we asked you, in which way do you think we will see Luke most in the movie? And we gave you 3 choices. As a Force ghost, in flashbacks, or he comes back to life. So before we get into the results, Lacey, which one did you pick?
I chose Force Ghost.
Force Ghost. Okay, I chose in flashbacks.
Yeah, you've been saying flashbacks a lot, so
A lot. But overwhelmingly, 71% of the people out there voted for as a Force Ghost.
Because we're right.
With 16% in flashbacks and 13% say he may come back to life. The Rise of Skywalker.
Really?
Yeah, so a little over 1 out of 10 people think Luke coming back. Big time. Resurrection.
It's funny when you say it that way. 1 out of 10 people.
Well, yeah. 4 out of 5 dentists believe Luke Skywalker is not coming back from the dead at all. But you ever see those commercials?
Yes, it makes no sense. Why not just say?
So that only means 80% of dentists recommend your toothpaste. I need a little higher than that.
Maybe that's why they're saying 4 out of 5. Maybe that's the trick. The marketing trick.
To make it look like a more enriched percentage. Because if Geico was like 80% of people give us a satisfaction rating, you'd be like, that's not that good.
That's still like, 20% are like, no.
Yeah. But anyway. We had someone who gave us a best comment, and that was J.R. Solano at Dr. Ragnarok. That's kind of a cool handle, I guess a little Thor action there. Mm-hmm. And J.R. said, I think it will be both options. I guess he means Force Ghost and flashback. Let's see. Mm-hmm. For Rey's arc, he'll appear as a Force Ghost, while for Kylo Ren's arc, he'll appear in flashbacks. So I kind of can see that. That's good.
I can see that too.
And he said, while I don't think he'll be in the movie a lot, his presence and influence will be all over the movie. So that was obviously the most liked comment, and I could see that. I could totally see him visiting Rey as a Force Ghost and giving her the final go get him speech, like Mickey in Rocky V. And then, have you seen any of the Rocky movies? Have we talked about that? You haven't? Okay. Well, people out there know what I'm talking about.
Sports.
Yeah, boxing. Sylvester Stallone. And then flashbacks. Yeah, I think that's very possible. We may revisit him and Kylo Ren years ago or something like that. I hope so. I think that'd be kind of cool. But great job, JR. Good job there. So now we're going to move on from the polls and hop into, we have a lot of weird stories to get into. News isn't really crazy, but a lot of things happened around Star Wars on social media or wherever. So we're going to hop into that and slice everything up right now in the Resistance Report.
It's the Resistance.
Okay, so now obviously James usually does this, but we're going to do our best to soldier on through it without him. So first, Lacey, that rumor that was kind of going around about Rey and her dad and Han Solo possibly
I hate it.
having a side piece and having another kid.
Yep.
So Pablo Hidalgo was asked
Pablo.
about this. And he rarely steps back into the mess. But he's like, on this one, I feel like I almost have to because one, I think people could figure it out on their own, I think he's thinking. And the other one, he's just kind of like, I got to squash this. So what do you think of Pablo saying, let me read his quote real quick.
Well, let's first say what the rumor was. The rumor was that Han Solo had an affair with someone else while he was separated from Leia and she was training with Luke. He had a kid, and that kid is Rey, therefore making Rey Kylo's half-sister.
Right.
Which, first of all, why are we still talking about Rey's parents?
Yeah, that's true.
Can't believe it. Okay, go ahead. Read the quote.
All right, so I'm bringing up the quote right now, and Pablo...
It was a tweet from a fan, right?
Yeah, so they simply read him the rumor. They said, what's this we hear? Han is a deadbeat dad with a slice on the side. What a verbiage. And is secretly Rey's dad. Please let me know Abrams is not this lame, and goes full Maury Povich. And Pablo just wrote back saying, that doesn't fit with the timeline. Han and Leia were together up until 5 years before The Force Awakens, when it all went to hell, and Rey's 19. So if you do the math, obviously that doesn't work out. Because Rey was 14 around the time that Han and Leia got estranged, so that doesn't make any sense at all. So he just kind of, I think he addressed this one because it can be found out on your own.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't really need to do too much to steer people on that. So he was just pointing out the obvious, like if you look here and look here, you get that. So I think that rumor came from Jason Ward on his podcast, but he had said this is just a rumor going around that I'm hearing. He didn't say this is my site, this is my report. So I got to give him credit there. But people, I think, are just getting a little annoyed at the fact that these rumors about Rey's parentage are going around, and then also I think people are very sensitive about damaging legacy characters even further.
I just think it doesn't make sense in Han's character that he would cheat on Leia. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever, and it goes against everything that's been said and written and shown to you as Han. To the fact that he, over and over again, proves that he's deep down the good guy. He does some shallow stuff, like for money or whatever, but he would never go against the people that he cares about. That's why he shows up to save Luke. That's why he ends up helping Enfys Nest. There's time and time again that he helps all these characters and he has a good heart. Why would he then go against Leia, who is the love of his life? And he even says that numerous times that he loves her and that he cares about her. Even in TFA, he's like, even when we're apart, I care about you. I've always cared about you. I messed up. I feel bad about it. Why would he ever... It just makes me angry, and I can't think logically, because I'm like, why would you ever take a character that is so beloved and then be like, yeah, he cheated on Leia, and that's why Kylo Ren is the way he is. Yeah. No, that makes no sense.
Right.
No sense whatsoever.
And it would just storytelling wise, like here we are in episode 9, wrapping up this whole Skywalker saga, and this is what happened, and this happened this whole time, but now we're telling you now. It's just like, that is lazy writing. It's sloppy. It's something out of a bad soap opera, and J.J. Abrams wouldn't do that to himself as a writer, I don't think. Because imagine, people were getting mad that Luke Skywalker died heroically. Imagine if J.J. Abrams was like, yeah, Han Solo's a cheating bastard. He's not your hero.
So guys, we talked months ago someone had asked, I think in the Resistance or asked the Resistance, like if there was anything in the world that would ever happen that would make us hate Star Wars. And I sat there adamantly being like, nothing could ever make me hate Star Wars. I believe in the story, whatever. If this happens, I'm going to hate Star Wars. There's no way they're going to take Han Solo and make him a deadbeat dad and cheat on Leia. That is the most ridiculous thing ever.
What would you call your YouTube channel?
I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to start anything. But I will say that this is ridiculous. And I couldn't see them ever doing this to Han Solo.
Yeah.
They've already killed him. They're not going to make him a bad person and kill him.
Now,
because he died a hero technically right now.
Right.
So then it would then make the killing of him validated. Like, that would then be, people would be like, well, Kylo killed him because he cheated on Leia and he hates him. Then that makes, like, it downplays the death of Han Solo. Everything about this is terrible. I just want to get that out there. And thank you for Pablo for stopping drawing his Transformers to, like, look up and say, yes, no, this is not true.
Yeah, I think it's not so much as important as it is for us diehard fans. Like, this type of thing will make its way to casual fans, and they'll be like, did you hear that I heard a leak that Han Solo is actually Rey's dad? And like, that's something like my mom would tell me or my dad, and I'd be like, oh, now I gotta explain to you guys, the timeline, and I don't want to do that. And so I think like him debunking this and us being allowed to be like, look, this guy who's officially with this says even proof that, because some of my casual fans, they get even wilder conspiracies than I do. They're like, well, what if Luke's not dead? What if,
oh, he's like, dead, all right.
Yeah, so I think it's important for these debunks, not even just for us who are like, duh, but the casual fans who are going to be like, did you hear that Han Solo is actually Rey's dad? I mean, man, so I think it's important in that way. But I'm glad either way it's debunked. As you say, it'd be awful.
And George Lucas would never want Han Solo to be cheating on Leia.
Oh, yeah. No, he didn't even want Han Solo to die back in the day. And Harrison Ford's like, you got to kill me. So he doesn't want him to make him a cheating adulterer. No.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. So you ready? You want to move on to the next story?
Yeah, I'm done with this. Han's
It's a little more, this one's a little more fun. This one is Galaxy's Edge dedication ceremony. That's, we were the only ones who didn't attend. I
didn't get an invite, so
didn't get an invite. Didn't crash it.
Watched in my PJs.
Respected the boundaries. Didn't do a wedding crasher situation. But they held the ceremony, and to a lot of people's surprise, George Lucas was there.
Mm-hmm.
It was moderated by Bob Iger, and the only important part was like the 15 minutes.
It was more like moderated by Bob Iger's teleprompter.
Right, and I didn't watch like the pre-show with like those hosts are always like, I pretend I like Star Wars, and I'm just reading this thing here.
The blogs.
Too.
Yeah, the blogs always have that stuff. Yeah.
Jeez, those people. Like get someone who looks like they may have watched one Star Wars movie, maybe. The Aluminum Falcon is right behind me here, and come on, guys. But anyway, Bob Iger brought out George Lucas. He brought out Billy D. Williams, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford. So I watched this live. I want to hear your thoughts on what I know you watched it. So what were your thoughts on this thing?
I thought it was cheesy, typical of Disney. It was like overstaged, overplanned, just too much. It goes back to Celebration when they did the Galaxy's Edge panel. Like, there was some good content and stuff in that panel, and Matt Martin was fabulous, and even Josh Gad did a good job with what he was given, but it just seems so planned. It was like, what do you say, blank? And then they turn. Yeah. It was just too much. Now, the fact that they brought all these people out is really cool. George was one of my favorite parts where he's like, well, you guys didn't mess this up. I was like, that was not in the script.
You could have really messed this up, but you didn't.
Yeah. I don't think he wrote that. I think he honestly just said it. They were like, he's going rogue.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think that's cool. But I know you have a specific part that you really, really loved.
Yeah, well, first, I have to say this whole thing I thought was bad overall. I like the nostalgia factor in seeing these old actors, especially, Peter Mayhew just passed. We lost Carrie Fisher. You're not going to get these kinds of moments forever with these originals. Yeah. So I like that they did it. That's awesome. But it was just bad. Like, it was just awkward.
Where are the new guys?
Right. That's another thing. But I think they wanted to almost do like let's bring out the old to usher in this new thing. But like from George walking out, saying what he said, like he still has that like, you know what, I don't care, I'm George Lucas, I'll say what I want kind of attitude, which you gotta, I guess, respect. He's always been the rebel of Hollywood anyway. And Bob Iger is like the opposite of that. He's Mr. Corporate Hollywood. And then Bob
Iger.
Yeah.
Take my picture, JJ.
Yeah, right. Bob Iger with the pose. And then you have Billy D walks out and he goes to like shake George's hand, and Bob cuts in front of George first and like shakes his hand. It was very awkward. Then Mark Hamill comes out.
That's a power move right there.
It's a power move, but it's also a little like, that was weird. And then you have Hamill come out and he does his Hamill thing where he hams it up and tells his stories about what it was like back then. And what's that?
So do you want to say ham one more time?
Ham. Don't put it on pizza. And he, hams it up for everybody, does his thing. Then Ford walks out and he looks like he's shooting Fugitive 2.
Castaway 3.
Yeah, they're all reading lines and it's very like scripted, but it's supposed to look like it's not. And anyone can see that except like 8-year-olds, maybe, even them, maybe. And then they do that thing, which was my favorite moment, where Harrison Ford went off script and Bob Iger's like, can anyone fix this thing? And Harrison Ford's like, let me give it a shot here. And the pyro guy's ready to hit the button.
The funny thing about the delivery for Harrison, you could tell he didn't want to. He was like, I guess I can take a look.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let me give it a shot here.
Why am I here?
And he turns to the camera and does his Harrison Ford point, and he's like, Peter, this one's for you. And then it's like, it already turns on, and he didn't even hit it yet. It was more like,
Peter, this one's for you.
So it's the timing was off, and it was because they probably thought he was going to do it right after his final line in the script. And Bob Iger right after that goes, oh, well. Now, if you didn't watch it live, they edited it to make it look better. It was not good. Harrison Ford was done talking and he was about to do it and it just lit up. And then Bob Iger said, oh, well, and threw his hands up a little bit. So I just thought this whole right here. I thought the whole thing was a disaster, but I'm glad that part was a disaster because it showed Harrison Ford reaching out to Peter, who a lot of people think he didn't really care about. So I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny, though, because, we had a Patreon chat with our generals and admirals, which we do once a month, and we were talking about this moment specifically. And I have friends that work at Disney, and there's a lot that goes into these productions where you have like someone on the headset, someone doing pyro, someone doing this. So like some producer somewhere was like, and go. Oh, no. Oh, right. Oh, no. But yeah, so we were talking about how they've edited it now. And so I guess now he says Peter, and then it lights up, and then he hits it, and then the fireworks go off.
Yeah. So
we see you, Disney.
Disney magic. Yeah, we saw it live. We know what really happened. Bob's like, erase all live cuts of that. Go find it. Block their Twitter accounts. I don't care. We're Disney.
Meanwhile, Anthony Bresnikan is tweeting out a live video from there. And it's been retweeted like 1,000 times.
Yeah. So it's like the Zapruder film from the JFK assassination. It's like, who has footage? Who saw what really happened?
Or those photos of Beyonce from like the MTV Movie Awards when she didn't look good, remember? And all her people were trying to get them off the internet and people just kept spreading them.
Wasn't that the Super Bowl?
Or Super Bowl, you're right.
Yeah.
Sports.
That was rough. She looked like the Incredible Hulk or something.
Yeah, she was jacked.
Yeah. She was like, oh.
It was a weird picture. It was just it was like during a dance move or something. But I remember her people were like, get those off the internet. And all it did was like fuel it for people to be like, oh, a word.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who doesn't look bad though, Lacey? And that's Alden Ehrenreich.
Oh. Okay. No, cool. Yeah, he does look good.
Now, Alden Ehrenreich was at Galaxy's Edge the day after the dedication, and he was there doing the
always
rounds.
Wearing a dad hat.
He's got his little hat on, and some people were spotted with him, and Chris Perillo, I guess, found him and told him about Make Solo 2 happen.
He did.
We can check off Alden. So what do you think about that?
I think that's shout out to Chris. He's awesome. So I actually met Chris. I use met because we met online during Make Solo 2 Happen Day. Like, met online as in, like, we started talking to each other on Twitter.
Oh, not like Match.com, like met online.
no. Like on Twitter, we were chatting about Make Solo 2 happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he's super nice, and he does stuff, I believe, for Star Wars Radar or something like that blog site. But he was very excited about making another Solo movie and retweeted us and talked about the campaign. So the fact that when he's faced with Alden, he brings it up and was like, yeah, man, make Solo 2 happen, and told Alden about it. Like, that's so great. And I guess he had talked to Alden about it, about Twitter, and Alden was like, I don't have a Twitter.
Right.
I don't have a Twitter account. But the fact that he brought it up is so cool. And I appreciate everyone listening and watching and whatever that is still supporting this campaign, because it's still going pretty strong. I mean,
yes,
the post about the day was going for almost a full week later. People are still talking about it. Every time something Solo is related on Star Wars, either .com or Twitter, everyone uses the hashtag.
Right.
It's really, really cool, and people are taking notice. And the fact that these people like Alden, who probably saw the negative stuff, is hearing this directly from fans, it's just such a heartwarming moment that you're like, oh, see, people, he knows. He's got to know that people care. He's got to know that people liked him as Han Solo. But shout out to Chris. Thanks for doing that. We really appreciate it. And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I saw a couple of people tweeted them with photos at Galaxy's Edge. I don't know how they had got the passes, but they were wearing their Solo shirts, and they were using Make Solo 2 happen. So yeah, it's kind of taken off now where everyone is using it as they will. And I think that's great. I think that was the purpose of it.
Yeah, that's
and
what you wanted, right? When you made it?
That's it. You want people to know about it, hear about it, tweet about it. And my new thing is, anytime anyone ever sees Bob Iger, whether it's across the street or TMZ or at Subway, say, make Solo 2 happen.
The teleprompter guy's like,
yeah, let's find all the teleprompter guys and change his whole script.
Bob Iger's like, so then next is hashtag make Solo 2 happen.
It's like Ron Burgundy. He just reads whatever's on there.
Harrison's like, this one's for you, Resistance. Make Solo 2 happen.
Yeah, make Solo 2 happen, lights up the sky. Whatever you put on that teleprompter, Bob Iger will read it. Don't put it there.
Bob.
I think it's great what everyone's doing. So keep that hashtag going. And now that we know that Alden knows, we have Jonas, Alden, John Kasdan, Ron Howard, Rob Brito, John Powell, the composer. Who else am I missing here? Oh,
basically all of Lucasfilm.
Brian Herring. A lot of people, Lucasfilm are aware of it, obviously. So
StarWars.com, yeah.
Most of the people involved with making the movie are aware, and
I'm
like
sure
the
Disney
hashtag,
marketing's aware. They're probably like, hey, we didn't pay for this campaign.
Right.
I want to make that clear. Disney didn't pay for that.
That's my favorite.
Did it.
Yeah, that is my favorite that people think that. But
I wish I got paid.
I wish I got paid for that too. Disney, give me a call. I just relaunched a campaign for your sequel that a lot of people didn't want.
Hey, Bob?
Yeah. There he is.
Hey, Bob?
Hey, Bob? All right. So, speaking of Solo and Ron Howard, Lacey, you saw that Josh Horowitz of MTV News sat down with Ron Howard. Why don't you tell us what they talked about?
Yeah, so Josh posted a podcast with his, I believe it's called Happy, Sad, Confused.
I think
so he gets a lot of celebrities on that, which is pretty cool. And they always take these photos of them together doing those emotions. But he sat down with Ron Howard and he talked about a lot of different things. And then today he actually retweeted it again and mentioned, I talk about Solo at this point, 22 minutes and 55 seconds. So I was like, oh, I wonder what he's talking about. Because he brought up Lord and Miller. So I was like, I'll give it a listen. And I was super pumped because not only does Ron talk about Solo, he talks about the reaction to Solo, which I feel like is the first real time he's been honest about it a year later. He kind of mentions us, which I'll let you talk about that part. But then he talks about Lord and Miller too, and about how they were involved. They were executive producers. What happened to them wasn't great, and it's a shame, and they were disappointed. And, you know, they saw the movie and gave notes, and he tried to, you know, bring them in as part of the feedback process. But then also he honestly answered, like, when I see them, I don't bring it up, because it's like, why would you bring that up? And I feel like that's so true. Those poor guys must be asked about it all the time. And Ron Howard too. It's like putting these two groups of creatives against each other when they're just trying to get a good finished product. So to hear Ron say, like, look, I love those guys. I did what I could with a terrible situation and I came in to help. So that is what it is. But on the positive note, John, what did he say? kind of about us without saying about us.
Yeah. So you would transcribe this for me because I didn't have time to listen to it.
I
so
did.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So they're talking here, and Josh was saying, or Ron was saying, it was it was still a little disappointing. Disappointing for them, but I think that those are the hardcore fans that sort of tell you like how many people are tag-alongs that need to wait and see what people think, or if it's essential, like it's a zeitgeist movie or not, and whether it's like I like Star Wars and want to see what's next, and so that whatever millions that it made worldwide, those are the hardcore fans, but it didn't hit that zeitgeist point for whatever reason. Timing, young Han Solo, pushback from the previous movie, which I keep hearing was maybe something, some trolling, definitely some trolling, some actual aggressive. And then Josh said, you've heard the stories and now you were like, yeah, this is real. And Ron said, yeah, well, that is, yeah, it was pretty, it was pretty interesting. And he keeps skirting around these things.
Because he keeps saying, the thing is, as John's reading this, it's Ron thinking through the process as he's talking.
Right.
So a lot of the yeahs is like him sitting and thinking like we do when we do the podcast. So just keep that in mind. This isn't like an official written statement. This is just Ron having a conversation, and he's talking just like we do. So there's a lot of like yeahs, and he starts and then finishes, but the thoughts are there.
And then he gets to the point where it's now a year later and the dust is settled on the bad marketing, on the Last Jedi thing, and on the stuff that
timing.
Ron is telling you without wanting to tell you why it didn't do well because he's a nice guy.
And Josh actually does a great job of pointing those things out. He's like, come on, man. If this came out in December, you would have made easily another $100 million.
Right.
And Ron's like, probably.
Right. And that's when he's like, Alden did a great job. He's a really dedicated guy. I had a blast with everybody. And look, a year later, it's kind of interesting. You wouldn't think you'd participate in a Star Wars project and have it wind up being kind of and Josh said a cult classic. And Ron says a cult movie, but I can already tell that those who have affection for it are pretty adamant in their feelings. And that's nice. And that's him acknowledging the movement that just happened a year after it came out. Hashtag Make Solo 2 happen. As you guys may have known, Ron quote tweeted our tweet with our shirts for Make Solo 2 happen with a smiley face. He's well aware of the movement. So it's nice to see him allude to it again here. And
I can see him seeing our tweet and just being like, well, that's nice.
Yeah, well, that's nice. Honey, come look at this.
That's nice.
Come look at this. These nice folks here.
What should I write back? Smiley face.
Yeah, he didn't even send it. He hands it to his wife and she like puts the smiley in for him. He's like, yeah, that works, I guess.
Yeah.
I just, even if nothing comes of Solo follow-up, it's nice to know that we, as a lot of fans a year later, are showing them that we really do appreciate this movie. And it means a lot to us. And again, I watched it again the other night and I had my little son with me, Johnny, and he was like looking at it and enjoying it. He's only 9 months old. But I love it. Every time I watch it, I love it. So hopefully, Lacey, we'll see. Maybe Solo 2 will happen on the Disney Plus or something, right?
Yeah, and if people have time, definitely listen to the interview. It's a really good interview. It shows the passion and care that went into it and how he really came in with a good heart and wanting to help and make the situation better. And he tried the best he could. And he even goes on to say, like, yeah, most movies have 3 years to do these. Like Force Awakens, Last Jedi, they have 3 years. I had 8 months and I made what I made with it. And I did what I did, and I worked my butt off, and we had a blast, and I cared about everybody on set. And he goes into how, trolling and how that's become a thing now, and he didn't understand it and had to have his friends in Silicon Valley explain it to him, and rating systems. And to end the whole section of Solo on how he was so happy a year later that even though it was a year later that he was finally getting the recognition of people enjoying the movie and liking the movie, it was nice given that he was so disappointed with how it went to begin with, because I can only imagine the kind of stuff that gets said about it. And you put your heart into this thing for 8 months and you're rushing and you're trying to do your best and long hours and all these people are putting in extra time and it kind of, and we talked about this a lot, but he talks about it too, is it was set up to fail in the sense that people were already bashing it before it even came out. And he was like, I was just in this position of well, so I'm really pumped that these people are seeing that people like it, and I really hope something comes of it. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, maybe not. I think that we have a good shot at this, guys. I think we have a good shot that we might get something, probably a series. I'm totally for it. And I think every day more people are getting on board. So the more we use the hashtag and get it out there and support these creatives like Ron and John Kasdan and Jonas and John Powell and all these people, as the more we support them and show them that we care and that there's an audience there, there's no reason why they shouldn't make it. They brought back Dark Crystal for Netflix. They're bringing back Willow, which they talk about in that podcast. They brought back Family Guy years ago after it got canceled on the same network.
They brought back a show that Ron Howard's on, Arrested Development.
Yes, there are plenty of shows and movies that they've brought back and rebooted and all these things. There is no reason. There's still a chance. So keep using the hashtag.
Lacey, you know what? Do you watch Arrested Development at all by chance?
I do.
So like 3 years from now, when they do make Solo 2 happen, Ron Howard just goes, "They did."
He better do that for our podcast if it does happen.
Oh man, or we just capture him saying it on another show and like edit it in.
Ron, if you're listening, if you could just record "It did happen" and just send it to us, resistancebroadcast@gmail.com. We'll hold on to it and we'll wait until it happens.
We're about to get a lot of weird emails in the next.
I know. It's okay.
No. All right. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to say about the Solo thing.
Sure.
I wouldn't be shocked if they eventually do make movies just on the streaming service. They're not doing it yet.
They could.
Whether
Netflix
it's a show,
does it.
right now, whether it's a show or a movie, like Kasdan pointing out his idea of Pike Syndicate, the Hutts, Crimson Dawn.
People love it.
Then you can get Jabba involved, Boba Fett involved. You have Kira, Maul. That sounds more interesting than a Cassian Andor series to me. And I'm not trying to hate on Cassian Andor.
I think it totally does too. I wasn't the biggest Cassian fan. I'm gonna be honest.
I'll wind up really liking the Cassian Andor series, I'm sure. But all those characters involved in that story and the way they left off at Solo would just make so much sense. And you could span that out over 8 to 10 episodes.
I want more Jabba.
I really hope they have at least a discussion about the ideas, because then you could poll the audience again. Do you guys want to see this? You pay for Disney Plus. I guarantee you, 4 out of 5 dentists will subscribe to this idea without
I want a full Jabba puppet again. I want the puppet back, guys.
Salacious Crumb, you can bring him back.
John Kasdan could help us get the puppet, guys. He wants to bring the puppet back.
Yes. Give me Crumb. Give me the whole gang. Let's go back to Jabba's palace.
Yes.
Anyway, we're going to keep talking about Solo. Of
course,
thanks,
Ron. We're glad you're listening.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much.
Not to this, but maybe online.
All right, now, Lacey, on to even earlier than Solo. BuzzFeed said they have an exclusive from 3 sources.
Which is, what potato are you?
Right. Well, people argue BuzzFeed News is different from BuzzFeed, and I don't know, but
same.
They are claiming that they have an exclusive information saying that there's, in addition to Benioff and Wise and Rian Johnson, there's another movie being made that hasn't been talked about yet about Knights of the Old Republic specifically, and that Leida Kalogridis is writing the screenplay for it. She did Shelter Island and a bunch of other stuff that I can't even list off the top of my head right now, but someone's going to put in the comments, John, how'd you forget about this one? But anyway, Lacey, what do you think about BuzzFeed's exclusive story? I know you've been pushing for Knights of the Old Republic. You probably didn't see it coming from this direction here. What do you think about this story? Yeah,
so this came out late in the day on Make Solo 2 Happen Day. This was like one of those things that happened and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Or the day
First
after.
First of all, I would love for it to happen. I'm totally on board. I've been saying this for a while. I want Darth Revan so bad to be like in a movie or a show or something. That being said, I don't know if I believe this because we have multiple people being like, I don't know. And then you have some people saying yes. And my whole thing is, I guess I want to just go to what have people reported that's been true so far, to kind of put this against it. But I don't think anything's come out yet that's been a legit, oh, this is definitely happening.
Right. So,
but I guess Mandalorian would be an example, maybe, that there were rumblings and then it ended up to be true. Cassian, I don't know if was one that we really necessarily knew about. I would love for this to happen. I just really am not the biggest BuzzFeed fan, so I don't know how valid this story is. Right. If it came from Hollywood Reporter or Deadline or Variety or I don't know, anyone else, I guess. Because all I'm thinking about right now with BuzzFeed is what type of potato are you?
You stole my line.
I know. I'm bringing it up so you can take credit for it. Sorry,
Lacey, what character?
What type of cat are you?
Lacey, what character from Dawson's Creek are you?
Probably no one, because I'm not cool enough to be on Dawson's Creek.
I'd be Dawson. I'd be making the movies.
No, you would not.
I wouldn't.
No.
So I'd be Pacey? I'd be getting Katie Holmes?
You wouldn't be on Dawson's Creek either.
Oh.
We're not cool enough to be on Dawson's Creek.
Damn. Was that cool of a show?
Yeah, they're like hip kids. They're like 30.
They had very good vocabulary. I can't even say vocabulary. I said vocabulary.
And thus you are not on Dawson's Creek.
All right. I'm disqualified from the creek. Whatever. Vanderbeek. All right. So I don't think this is accurate. I don't think this is true.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first read it, I was like, all right. They are not only telling us who the writer is, which they've done that. We've seen them do that with Rian Johnson. We've seen them do that with Benioff and Weiss.
Josh Trank, right?
Yeah,
Trank,
they've done that. They unlike the Benioff and Weiss, which is an officially announced series of films, unlike the Rian Johnson, which is an officially announced trilogy, they are saying this is what this is about. This is a Knights of the Old Republic movie. So immediately with that, I was like, wow, that's shocking that they would reveal that when they haven't even told us what the officially announced stuff is yet.
And it's very suspicious because Kathleen Kennedy had mentioned at Celebration that they were working on something Old Republic. So people, I think, just immediately leached onto that, and they're using that as an example. But
the second thing that bothers me about this is it's specifically Knights of the Old Republic. Like, I know there's huge fans of the video game, and I understand that, and it's a very sensitive topic for those fans that it's not considered canon or it's not brought back from canon yet, and they're waiting for it, and yada, yada, yada. Sure. So I think that is weird that they're straight going Knights of the Old Republic on that. And then I did some digging on this, and I was told by somebody who knows somebody who that this is not a true story. So I
think there's a lot of weight behind the Knights of the Old Republic, not just because of the video game people, but because a lot of people, and I feel like we constantly come back to this, a lot of people are pulling Darth Revan and Bastilla Shan's relationship to Rey and Kylo. And you automatically have those people that have been using them as kind of an example of this is why Rey and Kylo work. That they're now saying, well, here are the people that were the examples. I would love that movie or show because that's exactly what I want for these characters over here. So I think you have a lot of fans that love that storyline that want to see it play out in a movie source. So that's naturally going to drum up some excitement regardless if it's happening or not, because that is like Reylo 1.0.
Yeah, maybe that. Also, I think there is a nervousness and an unsettling feeling about like when Star Wars is going to get a female main writer, and this story comes out that it's a female writer writing the screenplay.
Maybe I didn't even think of that, to be honest. With
Leida Calogridis here, and they're like, "Oh, there it is! They're doing it! They're finally doing it!" And that made people say, "Oh, this got to be real," because they're finally listening. They're finally doing it. But all that aside, whether we obviously want female writers in Star Wars, of course. We want Old Republic stuff, of course. Doesn't mean this story is true.
And I think it's also there's like so many different factors playing into this story. And you have the Game of Thrones guys that are coming off the last episode that people hated, and they're seeing them as male writers that they don't agree with. And then they're saying, oh, look, a female writer that's got to be better. So you have people on that side. There's like all these things that are kind of like morphing into this big excitement. But I think everybody needs to take a breath and a step back and realize that like that doesn't mean this is true.
Yeah, I don't think this story is true. Based on people I've talked with, and based on our own logic that we're even showing you right here on our or how we're breaking it down. But one other thing I want to say before we wrap up Resistance Report, like I watched that Game of Thrones documentary called The Last Watch. The thousands
I love those
of people that went into making that show, and people are just like, Benioff and Weiss are bad writers. Like, that is such a narrow-minded, like, dumb thing to say, in my opinion.
They have a writing team, don't they? Just like any other show?
They have writing teams, multiple directors, multiple producers, multiple executive producers, all the way down to people who handle making the fake snow for the series. There are thousands of people of all shapes and colors and sizes and genders involved in this series that were all pulling in one direction to make a great show, and to just blanketly smack it because of the two main guys who pitched the idea to HBO, who were the main executive producers, wrote an ending that you didn't particularly agree with, to me is so wrong, because you watch that documentary and I felt embarrassed for people who took that hard stance, because it's so many people involved in these types of things, and you could take that to Star Wars, you could take that to anything. Like, people forget it's not 5 people who make something happen. It's thousands of people working for years, for like 7 months to build one set. These people bleeding and sweating
should sit through the credits.
Oh my God. Like they interviewed one woman who's involved with, the wardrobes, and one woman involved with the puppetries and the effects and stuff, and how much time she took away from her family to do what she's doing. Game of Thrones was a massive thing. So I think people should, wait before we find out more about what these guys are doing for their movies before we start saying they should be fired. So that's just my soapbox, and I apologize, but I have to speak my opinions here, because if I do it on Twitter, I'll get screenshotted a year from now. But that's that.
That's fair.
Now, Lacey, I have this may be good news or bad news for you. I don't have a rundown this week.
Why is that bad news for me?
I don't know. I think sometimes you don't like the rundown, I think.
That's not true.
No,
I like doing Punch It. We don't get to do that. So that is bad news, I guess.
Bad news. Okay.
Bad news.
But what that means then is that we're going to fire it over your way and tackle a little thing we like to call Ask the Resistance. So what do we got?
Not Punch It.
Not Punch It?
Not Punch It.
Not Punch It. Okay.
Okay.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Guys, it's time for Ask the Resistance. You've got Star Wars questions. Hopefully we have some pretty good Star Wars answers, because it's just John and I. We're not going to really switch off, I don't think. We'll just kind of chat about them.
I like that.
Cool. I miss James.
I miss James too.
All right. So the first question comes from Pemberfoot at Pemberfoot. Hello. He asks, could it be we haven't heard anything more about Rian Johnson's upcoming Star Wars project because it pertains too much about the finale of #The Rise of Skywalker? Could it be a possible Skywalker Academy series or films in our future? John, you want to kick us off here?
No, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think they made it clear in the PR release about Rian Johnson's thing that it was going to be a new trilogy with brand new characters.
Mm-hmm. Exploring new parts of the galaxy, I think, is like the statement that was.
Yeah. So I think while you can make that connection, I don't think these have that has anything to do with the Rise of Skywalker. Now, I've said this on the podcast. I do think they're waiting to say anything about Rian Johnson to not bring any kind of toxicity or trolls out while they're trying to promote the Rise of Skywalker. But I don't think the movie itself has any direct connection to why we haven't heard about Rian Johnson's project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel really bad for Rian that he's going through this stuff, and he has to be a really strong, tough guy to be going through what he's been going through for the past however many months. So I really hope that people move past this, because I can't keep doing this.
It's been a year and a half.
I know. It's been a while.
Been a long time.
That being said, I agree with John. I think that they're waiting until this last movie's done, and then they'll move in a different direction with explaining where they're going in the galaxy. It's going to be all new. I think that was the excitement around Rian's project, was that it was new and it had nothing to do with the Skywalkers or anything that we know of, which is exciting. I feel like Rian took Star Wars right now in a direction that none of us expected. So I can only imagine what he's going to do with something completely from his brain.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah. Okay, so next is Sean Santarude at Rude Cold. How rude, Sean. How are you doing? He asks, do you think yet another new desert planet is really needed?
Good thing James is in here.
Are you disappointed that they aren't instead going back to either Jakku, Tatooine, or Jeddah? So I'll start this time. Am I disappointed? Yes. Why are we always going to desert planets or snow planets? And the answer is probably because deserts are really easy to shoot in. That's probably low production.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be a Star Wars planet, so it's not really that disappointing, but I mean, it's a little... I'm excited for the jungle planet that they're on, whatever that is, whether it be Endor or whatever. I want to see what that's about. I'm excited about the somewhat snow. I call it half snow planet, which is that city with the Thieves' Quarter. I think that's going to be really cool. I miss Coruscant because it's such a city that we've only had these really deserty snow planets in the new series. And even in like Rogue One, and then in Solo, we had sand, snow, sand, snow, sand, snow. We had a little rain on Rogue One, which was nice, but I hope we get something.
Tropical beach. Scarif.
Yeah, we did. Scarif was a little different. Am I disappointed that they're not going back to Jakku, Tatooine, or Jeddah? No, not really. I kind of wanted Jakku only because it would go back to explain maybe a little bit more about Rey, and it would bring it full circle and maybe kind of go into like the battle of Jakku. But I don't know if I'm disappointed. What do you think, John?
I'm only disappointed because I was so set that it was Jakku.
We both were.
For the Rey reason and also the Palpatine reason. I just thought hearing that he's coming back made me like so set that it was Battle of Jakku, thinking about all that stuff from Battlefront 2. So to hear that it's Pasaana, is that what it's called?
Pasaana, yep.
I mean, call me a party pooper, but the fact that it's another sand planet, it's just another thing that I have to explain to my mom or my brother.
I love how you're gauging Star Wars on what you have to explain.
You have to. I can deal with it being Pasaana if I'm in a Star Wars insider bubble and I could be talking to one of our patrons or one of our fellow fans or one of you guys and being like, oh yeah, so is that Pasaana or Tatooine? That's Jeddah, because if you see the plateaus in the back. Oh, right. Okay, got it. But if I'm talking to my brother or like my mom, they're like, sand? So is that where Rey was at the beginning?
Or is that where Luke is?
So that's where Luke, that's where Jabba was. Racing. Okay, like no. Jabba was Tatooine. Rey was on Jakku. And now, so they're going back to Jakku, is it? Okay, so they're going back. No, that's Pasaana. They filmed it in the same place, but it's a different planet. JJ likes the lighting on the sand with the cameras, but it's just like too much for me. So from a selfish reason, explaining it to my loving family and friends who are casual Star Wars fans, I am enough with the sand planets. I'm like Anakin at this point. It's rough, it's coarse, sand. And it makes explaining things impossible.
I agree. Next is Brian Bugler at Tbo_99. And he asks, I am curious to know your thoughts on roguish, he puts that in quotes, Zori Bliss, which is Kerry Russell's character. Are Zori and Rey related somehow? John, are Zori and Rey related somehow?
God, I hope not.
Me too. I saw some theories that were like, oh, the ship from Force Awakens is the ship in the Rise of Skywalker trailer. Could that be Zori's ship? Did she drop Rey off on the planet? Mm-hmm. That is the only way I will accept them somewhat connected. Not related, connected.
The reason why, and this is like a page out of James's book, I guess, where he's like, nothing is new, or everything's new and nothing's connected. Because let's think about this now. When TFA came out, people were like, oh, that Finn, that's Lando's son.
Yeah.
And then
Rey
TLJ comes out.
Luke's son. Yeah.
Benicio del Toro, that's Ezra.
Yeah.
And now it's like, Zori Bliss, that's Rey's sister.
Rey's mom.
So think about that conversation now, like 7 months from now, after we see this movie, we're like, God, well, we were so stupid. Oh my God. And I only say that because we all do it. Like it's not that I do it too. And I just think it's better for me to just not touch Rey family members anymore, connecting with her or
she's
hypotheticals. Honestly, I'm done connecting Rey to anybody. Like, the closest I will get to it is that, like, Leia or somebody left her on Jakku, but they're not related to her.
Right.
I'm done. I'm closing the door. The John Hoey store for selling Rey relatives, we're out of business, folks. Liquidation sale. I'm done. It's over. I've had enough. Honestly, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. So,
But John, are they related?
it's like, and then watch, it comes out and everyone's related to Rey.
And you're like,
Everybody. Chewie's like, I got something to tell you. We're third cousins.
honestly though, I think Zori could drop Rey off on Jakku. I could see that being a thing, but at the same time, Carrie Russell isn't that much older than Daisy Ridley by like what, 10 years maybe?
Oh, she's in her early 40s, right? Or she's 40?
Yeah, she looks young though.
Yeah.
Whatever. Regardless of age, are they related? No. Brian, I think this was a good question. I just don't
I do
think we
too.
believe
I
in
wasn't.
it.
Yeah, I'm not discounting your question at all because we ask the same type of questions all the time.
I think it's just because we're constantly answering who's like for over a year now. It's who's Rey related to? Is it Kira? Is it this person? Is it anytime you see someone like either a woman or a woman with brown hair, which there are a lot of those in Star Wars. Everyone's like they're related.
Kira.
Yeah.
Oh, so
All right.
I if they wind up being related, awesome. I'm just the store's closed for me.
And last but not least is Daniel Sotir at DanRS87. Hi,
Daniel.
He asks, do you think the return of Palpatine will be a clone like in the EU, an illusion like Darth Bane in The Clone Wars, a sentinel from Shattered Empire and Battlefront 2, a hologram recording, or in a Force vision? AKA, how do you think Palpatine's coming back, John?
Do you have any ideas on this one?
I don't think he's a clone. I don't think he's going to be a hologram. I think this is tough because I haven't fully wrapped my head around it. And I know, guys, you're like saying like right now at your screens or your phones or whatever, like, Lacey, it's been a month and a half. I don't know. I still can't believe his laugh was in a trailer. Like, that still boggles my mind. So I think if he's going to come back, it's going to be... I don't like this idea, but it's the only one that I can think of because it's the only example that I've seen in like real life other movies is like the Professor Quirrell Hogwarts possessed like scenario where he comes back as some type of force and then takes over someone else. And so far the whole Matt Smith could be that role makes sense to me. Of like, oh, here's this evil guy. He possesses this other guy. His evil energy is enforced into that. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm a terrible storyteller. I'm just telling you, like, I can't see him coming back as an actual human being. That doesn't make any sense. I don't think it's a clone, because how are you going to explain that to general public?
Right.
Like, the general public's not going to be like, oh, yes, clones. Yes, of course.
Right.
Yes. Like... what?
Yeah, also EU, like, I don't think JJ wants to be known as the guy who ripped off the EU idea.
Yeah. It's gonna be something different.
Like, he may even have been like, imagine JJ was like, okay, I know they continued Palpatine. What did they do so I can not do that? And that's not to just like say it was bad, but he doesn't want to be like, I'm copying EU, you know?
This is where I wish James was on the show because he would know this better than me. In Rebels, Palpatine was in towards the end of Rebels, right? And then Ezra shuts a door or something or a portal where he's in it.
Yeah, so he showed up as a vision in A World Between Worlds, which is that teleportation little thing in the wall that brought back Ahsoka through her fight with Vader and changed that so she was alive again. Now, and Ezra heard all the voices. He even heard Kylo Ren, Rey, Yoda, everybody as he's walking through this hall. And then he gets to the end of the hall, and it's Palpatine, but it's like nice Palpatine from the prequels, talking all gentle to him. And he's coercing him, offering him a chance to be back with his family. And Ezra sees his family in like a kitchen, like yelling for him to come eat. And it's very tempting. And like, don't worry about your friends. Go. You need to go home. It's time for you to go home. And then he turns away from that, and then Palpatine turns into evil Palpatine again and tries to like chase him out of the thing.
So I guess my question is, and this is why I wish James was here, because I feel like he'd have a better understanding through something. He always is like, yes, and this edition of this and this and that. In that scenario, was he trying to possess Ezra? Was he trying to,
He was trying to...
Because I've seen it, I just don't get it.
He was trying to manipulate him, but he wasn't in a physical form. He was there in some sort of spiritual way, whether it's an illusion or a vision.
All right,
sort of
so
thing.
could you see that playing into episode 9 at all?
Maybe, but I don't...
How are they going to explain that? Because I don't get it.
I'll say this. I think the Darth Bane illusion in the Clone Wars is fantastic. It was beautiful looking, awesome. I don't think that plays in a movie. The same thing with this. I loved the World Between Worlds, but a lot of fans were uneasy about it because it introduced a little bit of time travel to Star Wars, and people were like, "Let's close that up." And Filoni's like,
because then it gets tricky. Because then you're like undoing things, like you said, like the Ahsoka thing, and so then it's like, okay, you're undoing stuff now.
We could bring Han back before Kylo kills him. Like, I don't want to deal with that.
Kill Kylo before it even happens. It's kind of like the Hitler baby thing.
Yeah, right. So that made people uneasy, but it was really cool how they did it. So I'm torn on that. I know a lot of people are torn on that episode.
Right.
I don't think JJ's going there either. And then a hologram recording would just be kind of lame.
That would be lame.
Just
Why would they have the cackle in the trailer and them looking at the Death Star if it's just a hologram?
And then it's just like,
this is Emperor Palpatine.
Diary, day 1.
I'm about to arrive at the Death Star to see the progress, and I'll catch up with you later. I'm about to talk to Lord Vader.
it's like, that's it?
His vlog.
Just yeah.
Emperor's log.
Like, I don't think so. So I'm rolling out hologram. Force vision. What is that going to do? Because he can't do anything in that. It's just a vision. Like when Luke fought Vader in the cave in Dagobah, that's just a vision. Like, Vader didn't do anything. Luke didn't really have his head cut off in the mask. Like, that's nothing.
Right.
So it has to be something deeper, but something that could be more believable by fans, as you put it. So I'm the possession.
It just makes me feel stupid because like I can't even fathom what it could be.
Like,
I think I need more time to sit on it.
I'm ruling out all these things. I don't think it's a Sentinel either, because they did that in the video game. And why would you reveal that cool thing in a video game with Sam Witwer's voice and all that stuff and then bring it back for 9? So I don't know what they're doing. I just know this list of things, while they're awesome in each of their own mediums, I don't like them translating to episode 9. So I'll tell you what, Daniel, I have a non-answer to that. I don't know. If it's a possession thing, like I know a lot of people are theorizing about.
It's
like
just so Harry Potter to me.
That he was, because I think maybe Emperor could have been talking to Kylo through the mask.
Through the mask. But then Kylo would be the one that's possessed, wouldn't he?
Not necessarily. He could have possessed artifacts because his spirit
like
went through the electricity when he was frying Vader. You saw it go into his mask.
Oh, yeah.
They
Like
could pull
Horcrux.
that. They could, yeah. So anything that his essence touched, like maybe that part of the Death Star, he's in there. Maybe he haunts that part of the Death Star. How about that?
Oh, because that's his resting place? His final resting place?
So what if Kylo and Rey are fighting and you hear Palpatine's soul or spirit hovering, echoing through that Death Star?
Honestly, what if it ends up that they're fighting him in that rain picture?
I don't know, but
dang,
I'm glad I don't at this point. But Daniel, that was a great question, because I think that was a nice little discussion we had there.
I feel like James would have loved that discussion. James, I'm sorry.
What if we make that a bigger discussion later down the line?
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
Daniel, thank you for your question.
Thank you,
If you
Daniel.
guys have questions, make sure to follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. We have a growing community. We talk about Star Wars there. We share new episodes. Just become part of the gang.
Yep.
Part of the resistance.
Yes.
Back to you, John.
Thanks. Yes, guys, the base is always open. The Resistance base is here for you guys. Whether you're having a bad day or good day, you just want to listen to some Star Wars and listen to it in a positive, fun type of way, we're here for you. So hit us up. Come subscribe to us, whether that is on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or YouTube. If you're watching YouTube, how you guys doing? How are you? Also, if you guys are interested in our additional content or you just want to support the podcast, head to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. We have new content every day over there, including you can get involved in talking about influencing what we talk about on the podcast. So there's a lot of things. Go check it out. Again, patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. And I have to send a special thanks to our Patreon generals, and that is Carmelo, aka a Gray Jedi, Brian Shalito, Don Boring, Andrew Staley, Len Brown, Neil Lowry, and Val Trichkoff. Generals, we salute you. Thank you for all of your support so much. We appreciate it greatly. Guys, also make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com for all of your latest news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Our review team is excellent. Every comic book issue, every book that comes out, every audiobook that comes out, they give you full spoiler reviews, everything you need if you can't keep up with all the crazy canon stuff. Like, oh my God, that mask was possessed by a Sith Lord? We got you covered there. And of course, your latest news and stuff that I like to write over there as well. So check us out every day to keep up to date on your Star Wars news. And if you guys have been seeing Make Solo 2 Happen shirts popping up in photos, we're the ones making them. James Bainey designed it based on the hashtag. Go to tpublic.com/user/Resistance Broadcast. We got it in yellow font and black font, your choice. Check them out and our other designs over there. And finally, us. You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and writing and editing at StarWarsNewsNet.com. You guys can find James Bainey on Twitter at Myra Trunks. And he is on Instagram sometimes, but not really so much. But hit him up on Twitter. And also, he handles our Instagram, I believe, as well, Star Wars Newsnet. So, Lacey, what about you?
People can find me on Twitter at Lacey Gillerin, where I talk about Star Wars and have a good time.
And going viral!
Don't be weird.
All right, guys. Lacey and I will be back with you on Thursday, where guess what, guys? We're going to play a game.
Oh, no.
We are bringing back our game called Who Are You?
I did my research.
If you haven't played it yet, it is our Star Wars movie quote game where we throw out quotes from any of the Star Wars movies.
Legitimate quotes, like real ones.
The other people have to guess who said it, and we want you to play along. So we hope you enjoy your weeks, study up on your quotes, and we'll see you Thursday morning right here with another episode of the Resistance Broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.